Yeah, on March 8th, we celebrate International Women's Day. For more than 100 years, this day has been used to draw attention on women's rights, gender equality, and existing discrimination worldwide. Women's ice hockey has been around since 1890, but the history of hockey is predominantly written from a male and a white perspective. But similar to other sports, women's hockey still has not achieved equality in the 21st century. And today, we highlight the stories of inspiring women who are making great impacts for our game nationally and internationally.
Our panelists are Miriam Thimm, Kathrin Fring, Merve Tunali, and Amelia Murray. I would like to introduce all of you briefly before I start with the interview questions, and I hope that's okay with all of you. Miriam was the first Black woman to ever play for the German national team. She served as a head coach for the women's Bundesliga team Düsseldorfer EG. Miriam is a sports scientist with the specialty in kinesiology and serves as a part of the coaching staff for the professional men's team in Germany, the Duisburger Füchse. In 2021, Tim worked as a hockeyist diversity delegate for the DEL Future Camps and is part of the National Hockey League Coaches Association Female Coaches Development Program. Miriam was recently featured in the Hockey News as 20 Women Making Black History Month. Kathrin played for 19 years in the DFEL, First National Women's Hockey League Germany. She won 5 championships and several other medals. After more than 25 years of playing hockey, she decided to still be a part of the game and give it a try as an assistant coach in her old team. She is now in her 3rd year with the Eisbären Juniors Berlin women's team. Besides coaching the defenders, she is in charge of recruiting important players and helps with contacts for schools. Merve was born and raised in Ankara and Istanbul. Her hockey addiction started when their ice rink was built in the middle of the city center. Merve was involved in the first women's team that was formed in 2007. For games, the team needed to travel over 900 kilometers round trip. Merve played for the Turkish national team and serves its assistant coach for its U18 team. Merve holds a PhD in environmental biotechnology and serves as an expert for the IHF Sustainability Committee. Last but not least, Amelia. Amelia is playing for the first season in Germany for the Eisbären Juniors Berlin women's team. Before joining the Berlin team, she appeared in 51 games for the ECAC Union College women's team. There she made the ECAC Hockey All-Academic team and was the recipient of the Community Service and Community Outreach Award. She graduated with a bachelor's degree in psychology and English. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to participate in our panel stream. And I would like to start with the interview questions and would like to start with you, Miriam. The Hockey News has recently named you among 20 women making Black history in hockey. This is a huge honor and recognition for your hard work. What does it mean to you?
Yeah, first of all, I was very surprised. And it was, of course, a huge honor for me. And I am proud to be a part of the history right now. But on the other hand, I thought we are really not many. And that shows that there still is a lot of work to do. That's what I thought.
Thank you. Researchers show that if you have a diverse candidate slate made up of women and people of color, that ultimately you're going to hire that talent. How can we attract more female players of color and increase the number of qualified candidates of color for coaching positions? What do you think?
Yeah, first of all, I think the access has to be changed. The opportunity that clubs see the potential in women and in female or players of color. And I think they lose a huge opportunity if they don't see the potential they have there. And yeah, and I think the hockey community has also missing a huge opportunity to grow there if they don't use it. And yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, thank you. Kathrin and you are Hockey as Diversity delegates participating in the NHL Coaching Association. No. Okay, start over. Kathrin and you are Hockey as Diversity delegates participating in the NHL Coaches Association Female Development Program. What has been the most interesting takeaway from your experience so far?
There are different experiences. The first is that the coaches are very open and very interested in sharing their work. That is very interesting for me, and also that they're very interested in hearing what is about our work and what we are doing. And of course, the huge network we have right now, and some new stuff, of course. And on the other hand, I saw that the girls there, the women there, have to work a lot. I thought overseas it is different and the job is seen different, but when I see the girls there, I recognize they have 2 or 3 jobs they have to handle to live their dream.
So basically like it is over here as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I would like to go to you, Kathrin, now. The US soccer and women's players recently agreed to settle their equal pay lawsuit for a total of $24 million. The players will receive a lump sum payment of $22 million. The US Soccer Federation has also committed to providing an equal rate of paying going forward to the women's and men's national team in all friendlies, tournaments, and also the World Cup. How can this huge accomplishment for US soccer women can be accomplished here in Germany?
So first of all, we're speaking about soccer and not about hockey. So that's the first problem. And then we're speaking about the US and Germany. And that's the second problem, because the German Hockey Federation is a non-profit club. That's something you can't forget about. And I spoke to many national team players, even if they're female or male, they don't get paid for playing for the national team. So if you're joining the national team, that has to be an honor for you. So maybe that's something different in our DNA, in the German DNA. It's something different to play for your country. I don't know. But I think our biggest problem is not like getting paid as a national team player. It's a problem as a female player in the highest national league. Like, we don't get money for that. We're not playing for money. We're playing for having fun, to lay our heart on the ice. And that's something where we have to work on. Like, everybody who's playing on the highest level of national hockey has to be paid and don't have to bring money to play. And that's something where we have to work on, maybe not in the federation, because that's obviously a non-profit federation.
Okay, thank you. The IHF canceled the U18 Women's Championship for the second straight year, while the Men's World Junior Championship was carried out as planned. Shannon Ceballos from the Canadian national team wrote on Twitter, "It's super insulting and degrading." Haley Wickenheiser wrote, "Nothing do with safety. If they can pull off the World Juniors, where there's a will, there's always a way. I question the will part." How disappointed were you when you heard about the IHF decision to cancel?
So I'm pretty close to the under 18 women team, because I'm their team manager. Emails from the girls who were really disappointed. I was disappointed. The national team coach was disappointed, and especially on the fact that the under 20 just took part. Like, what we saw was, okay, they're trying, and they didn't finish. So that was kind of a relief for us. But in effect, how it's happening again and again, that's not a good way for like women's hockey. But in the end, they just like opened up about reschedule the under 18s in June without speaking to any world federation. Like nobody was. And now every federation is standing before the next problem because they didn't have money for another championship. Like there's no date, there's no specific place where it's going to start. And you don't know if you have to go into a bubble. Like how many weeks do you have to spend for the championship in the US? And we're standing on the same problem again. Like they said, okay, there is an under 18 world champs, but with no facts. Like we'll see if there's another championship. We don't know yet.
Okay, thank you.
That's sad. It's pretty sad.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for your answers. Merve, now to you. What do you think is the biggest barrier in driving the visibility of women's hockey?
So I think there are several aspects to consider when we are talking about the visibility and the coverage of women's hockey in media. But the main barrier is the lack of marketing and promotion, but not by the hockey community, by the media. So it's more like chicken and egg relationship. And the presence of women's hockey is very limited in the media. I cannot even find data or something on it. And also the consistency is very limited. So even though we see some news during the Olympics or
Amelia, do you remember how you got into hockey? And growing up, what women in sports did you look up to?
Yes, I remember how I got into hockey. I think, like a lot of young female hockey players, I got into it because my older brother played. My dad threw him in a sport and it stuck. So I said I wanted to be like my brother, refused to put the figure skates on, and jumped out on the ice and loved it. But growing up, I really looked up to some of the local girls that I saw playing, and a lot of times they played on boys teams. So I thought that's what my dream had to be. That's how I had to do it. So I'd say a lot of local girls that ended up playing in Division I, Division III schools around me, but also the former American Olympic goalie Alex Rigsby, now Cavallini. I would say she's from my area, and so I was fortunate enough to spend some time around her. So I definitely looked up to her a lot.
Okay, thank you. Equality in hockey can feel a long way off. Although we can see some strides at the NHL level with a few female scouts and referees and women such as Haley Wickenheiser getting involved in player development or front office roles, there are still large swaths with no representation at all. What are the challenges to making inclusion more of a reality?
Similar to some of my other colleagues that touched on this, but I think one of the biggest areas that seems to be a challenge in creating more inclusion in the women's hockey sphere is buy-in. We don't really have a whole lot of buy-in from the male side, and the reality is that's where the power is right now. And in order to get ourselves to a place of equality, we need more and more male representation to understand that we need their buy-in to progress forward. A lot of the female hockey player side is about perseverance and persistence, and we have to find more buy-in on the male side and include more education of why women's hockey should be celebrated and watched.
Thank you. Merve, I have another question for you. How do you think male athletes can help to drive more visibility towards women's hockey?
I think nothing is straightforward when we are talking about the individual level. There are so many things that can be done, but I think the most powerful way is using the word of mouth. So they can just basically speak about it. For instance, the pro or semi-pro athletes can refer to female athletes when they are making a statement, or they can talk something about the women's hockey during the meetings with the stakeholders, or even like in amateur levels, the male athletes can use the power of storytelling. They can just basically tell some examples from the women courts or the other women athletes to the people surrounding them. So I believe that that will make an impact, that will make a contribution for sure.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for the wonderful answers. We are now going to continue with some general questions, meaning that whoever wants to answer can just answer. And I'm going to start with the first question. What does it mean to you to be a woman in sports?
Okay, maybe I go first.
Should we like raise up raise up your hands?
Well, Miriam, let's go.
Okay, yeah, that it is difficult to be seen, especially in a male-dominated sport like hockey, and that we have to work harder to be seen. And yeah, it is annoying and it is frustrating, but yeah, it is what it is. There's a lot of work to do to change it.
Kathrin, do you want to say something as well?
There's nothing like put on. It is what it is. It's hard. It's but it's always like it's giving you much more than you put in. That's something you have to learn as an athlete. It doesn't mean like, or there's no difference between women's or men's. I mean, like, you're learning so much out of sports, but I think our biggest problem right now is Germany, like just in Germany. I'm not talking about the world, I'm talking about Germany. Our sport, like we see on TV, on soccer, we don't get to see something different just when there are Olympics and stuff like that. Well, if we're watching the Sportschau, we're watching soccer. That's it. Like there's nothing else in Germany than soccer. If you want to watch hockey, you have to pay for it. And that's similar to many other sports.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. What are the challenges of making inclusion more a reality? Any opinion on that one?
I would say, kind of touching off my last question to me, part of the biggest pieces in inclusion is education. And for us, that means educating the rest of the world, whether that be hockey fans or not, that just because there's no checking, no fighting, doesn't mean that we don't play an interesting game. It's still a very physical game. And a lot of times, if you are a hockey fan, you know that the women's game involves a lot more skill because we can't hit people outright. So I think the biggest part is educating people.
Yeah. I was just a short story. I was in the MRT on Friday, and the first question, the man behind the desk was like, "Oh, are you girls like fighting on the ice?" That was his first question. I was like, "Well, yeah, sometimes when it has to." I'm sorry to tell you, yeah.
It's always the first question, always.
Yeah. Or are you showering together?
Okay, I don't think we should discuss that any further. Despite the positive changes in the media landscape, the absence of women in the media and a decision-making position is still highly problematic. How can we improve and address the systematic absence of women? You already mentioned that a little bit in your answers, especially about the media, but do you have any idea how this could be changed or how we can change it? Merve.
I think we have to produce more content on that, and more content with more sports statistics or analysis. So what I mean exactly by this is like, so for instance, I have read a research made by Cambridge University researchers, and they searched for the most frequent words used for the female sports, and they compared it with the men's sports. And what they found is that the most frequent words used for the female athletes in the sports news is more personal, so like pregnant, aged, or unmarried, but it's totally different for the men's. So then in this case, then we are not talking about sports news. We are talking about the more personal things that going on. So I definitely think that more sports related, like including statistics, including discussions, including sports analysis when it comes to women's hockey, then the quality will be for sure increased, and that can also build a fan audience, except for the hockey community that we are already following the news.
Miriam?
And the access has to be easier for people who are not involved in the hockey community. Yeah, especially when you are in the female hockey community, it is also not easy to find a stream to watch the games in Germany. So, but we are used to it, so we will find it. It's no problem. But if you're not involved into the hockey community, you will never find a link, and you will never ever know that there is a game running.
Well, thank you very much for your answers, because now you basically answered my next question. So I'm just going to leave this and let it slip under the table. What advice would you give to a young girl who is just starting off in hockey?
Did I start again? Or Kathrin?
Kathrin,
No, I'm starting.
Kathrin,
Yeah, go ahead.
Never be easy, but it would. Like you will find friends for life, and you will learn for life. You will get probably pretty successful in sports and in your private life. Like that's what all female hockey players are. They're pretty successful in their business lives. So that's something for a little kid who wants to start playing hockey.
Now I should say or not? Okay, yeah. First of all, our sport is amazing. You will never have so much fun in any other sport. That's what I always tell these young girls. It is amazing. I did a couple of sports because I study sport, and nothing was so amazing than hockey. That's what I would like to say. And of course, as you guys can see, Kathrin and me, we are good friends. And I made a lot of good friends in the hockey community, and it is worth it. That's what I would like to say. And keep fighting. Don't stop. Keep fighting.
Okay, anyone else? Go ahead.
Yeah, please go.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't know if it cut out for a second. I can restart that. I think what I would say to a young girl just starting out in hockey is that you're going to be put in some uncomfortable circumstances. I know that's not the most positive piece, but I think it's through finding those friendships like Kat and Miriam talked about, is that you find power. We might be in these positions where we don't feel like we have the power, but it really becomes this type of sisterhood that you can do anything with. Hockey is such a unique space, and although those positions might be uncomfortable, you can band together, and as long as you are persistent about it, you can make change. So.
And last but not least, Merve.
I would say having fun is the most important thing, and don't let anything to come between the sports, between you and the sport you love, and yeah, just follow your passion.
Okay, thank you. I have two more questions that you couldn't really prepare for, but hopefully I'm allowed to ask them anyway. The Manchester City soccer team had a great campaign with the slogan, same city, same passion. It is not men's football, it's not women's football, it's just football. Is that the way people should ultimately think about the topic of men's versus women's sport? What do you think?
100%. I think that is the way people should think about sports. I have a little bit of give and take with that, but I'm actually wearing a sweatshirt that says sports are not inherently male. So we're just fitting that right now. But I think there's power in saying that there's no difference. And there's also power in saying that there is a difference and acknowledging that women are such a big piece of the sports industry that we're missing out on. So I think, yes, baseline, yes, we can't make these differences and say that men's is better or whatever. But at the end of the day, we have to also acknowledge that the women's piece is missing and that we could be creating such a bigger industry and more inclusive industry if we can acknowledge both parts.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment? Okay, then last but not least, we are celebrating International Women's Day. And here in Berlin, it's actually a holiday where we don't have to go to work for the second time in the row, if I'm not mistaken, Kathrin. Is that correct? Yeah, I think last year was the first time that it was actually a holiday, like real holiday, and now this year again. What does it mean to you?
Probably have opportunities like we guys have right now to speak up. That's what I think. And maybe if the focus is on us girls, maybe more people listening to us.
Yeah, I think it's like the third time that actually Germany is celebrating the Women's Day. And unfortunately, it's the second year with the pandemic, so we can't like speaking up so open like we want to, like going on the streets and fighting for something. So we have to use like the internet to push ourselves into that position. I think sometimes it's hard to say, okay, today is Women's Day. You know that? It's Women's Day. I'm a woman. You have to like look at me and like listen to me, listen to what. So every day should be Women's Day. Like it's like don't just say on Women's Day. Say it every day. Say it out loud, like to everybody, not just on that specific day. Because sometimes it's on a Sunday and nobody's listening to you. So every day.
Thank you.
I totally agree with that. And sometimes during the march, I feel like my opinion or my view is being asked more frequently during the march because we have some talks on Women's Day and the Women's Day is approaching. But I wish it's much more frequent during the year. We have like 12 months, and yeah, I totally agree with that. And yeah, I wish it will be like this in the coming close future.
I am totally in shock that it's a recognized holiday in Germany because here in the US it is not.
Not in every part of Germany. Not in every part of Germany. Not in my part where I live. I have to work.
Well, I think that's awesome that we're taking strides, but obviously there's still a long way to go. And even in the US, where hockey is becoming more and more of a big deal, we don't have anything close to that. So I'm jealous. Hopefully we get there soon.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your thoughts on this important topic. Thank you for all your inspiration, for the inspiration you give the next generation, and for being game changers. I always love talking to you, and yeah, thank you. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.